one of the countless billions of galaxies in the universe lies a medium-sized star. And one of its satellites, a green and insignificant planet, is now dead.
Hey everybody, welcome to a special episode of Verse the World. We're going to be doing a little update for you guys. But I guess as always,
I'm Matt.
and I'm Danny. Welcome to Verse the World. We don't have any topic for you today. We don't have any guests. Eric is over in the audio booth hanging out there. And our friend and fellow podcaster Ty Newmeyer is sitting here on the couch with me. He refuses to leave the room.
Well,
So
just to paint a picture, Danny is laying long ways on the couch. Underneath his legs is Ty, sitting like a church girl.
I was laying like this, and then he came over
Lifted your legs
and like
up.
tapped my legs and was like, I want to sit down, I want to sit down. So I finally decided, well, all right, fine, man, but like I was here first.
It's pretty cute.
He looks like he's tucked in for a roller coaster ride, and like my legs are the bar, and he's like anticipating, like, ooh, it's just about to start.
It's going to be a whirlwind. It's going to be a roller coaster of a podcast.
Oh yeah. So basically, what we're doing is season 2 has ended. We know we've got a lot of people who are still listening. We're not ready to start season 3 yet, but I'm in town over the holidays, and Matt's still in town. So we just decided, let's get a couple hot mics. Let's just update the folks. What's been going on? What are we doing? Where are we at? So it's gonna be a real free form. It's gonna be the Verse the World easy listening special. We're gonna be with you for the next 15 to 145 minutes. Just laying down some smooth beats, talking about ourselves, and potentially getting undressed behind the mic where you can't tell.
We might already be. You don't know. So, so Danny, where have you been?
I've been in Tallahassee, Florida.
Sounds like a fake answer.
No, I've been in Tallahassee, Florida since August of this year. It's now December. I've done my first 4 months in my film program.
You said that like you're talking about prison. Got my first 4 months in.
It's starting to feel like a prison sentence. Like I am at the point I completely regret. You already started stripping.
Just my shoes for now.
I regret going to film school. I regret loving film. I regret that it's my passion in life. I wish I could select my own passion so that I could not do this. I want to give up on all my hopes and dreams. It's been tough. And so I've already started writing down how many months I have left, and I'm counting them off.
It really is like in the prison cell, your tally marks on the wall.
Yeah, except you're spending $100,000 to be in prison, and
Instead of the people's taxes.
yeah. Imagine if you had to pay your own way through prison.
My
That'd be a
God.
punishment. Like, then I would really avoid prison at that point.
Well, there's some people who will get incarcerated. Is that the right word? They'll go to jail, try to get into prison so that they can get proper medical treatment.
or so they have a place to sleep and get 3 square meals. There
Yeah.
are people who will actually do that.
No, yeah, I've considered it.
Oh yeah.
Like, oh wait, I could see a dentist. But anyway, we're slipping into a Verse the World episode. But
Well,
it
that
a
is the
slip over.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, why is it just way more difficult than you thought, or is it as difficult as you thought?
So much more difficult. I mean, like when I was talking about it on the podcast before I left, like I was excited because it was sort of like the first time in my life I'd really worked like really hard, full focus. This is something I really want, and I'm going to give it my best effort, and I'm going to try my hardest to get in. And I really expected not to get in. Like I expected not to get accepted. It was a surprise to get accepted. Some of the people I'm in school with right now, this is like their 3rd time applying, and they finally got accepted. But yeah, like which makes me feel really shitty being there. Like I'm like, I don't know how I slipped in, how I Mr. Magoo'd my way in, because the people who have like been applying over and over again like are way better than me. But it's like I tried so hard to get here, and you want to enjoy what you just earned, but it's just another hard battle. Like now I'm having to I worked as hard as I've ever worked in my life to get in, and now I'm being forced to work harder than ever. So it's mostly just exhausting. It's like sometimes it can be 13 hours a day, 6 days a week. You sort of just get thrown into things constantly, so you never have time to process or learn. And you're just sort of like constantly at your max stress level, at your wit's end, just hoping you can survive a little bit longer. And the 4 months that I was there felt like 2 years.
Yeah, and just never a break. I mean, because you
Never a
think
break.
if you heard Danny talk about it, you'd think, oh, it's nonstop, but you really do have breaks and stuff. But I think when I first asked you, you were explaining like a typical like Monday or something, and you were basically like you have class at like 9 or something,
Yeah.
and then from that time till
Till 10 p.m.
10 p.m. You have classes. You have a short break for like lunch or whatever, and that's sort of it.
Yeah, you have a short break for lunch. You maybe get like 10, 15 minutes between classes.
To cry.
To cry. To take a quick piss. That's it. If you're not too stressed out, maybe you can whack it like during those breaks, because you don't have time outside of school to do it. And then like lunch is like, hour and 15, but you're stressed the whole time. Like you're eating and
You're already
everybody's looking at each other like oh shit, like it's about to start up again. Everybody is like having mental breakdowns. Like everybody, like you regularly just watch people cry. You sort of get desensitized to it.
For real. Oh my god.
Especially like on film sets and stuff. Like
Oh
you
my
sort of get
God,
used
that
to people
sounds
being
awful.
like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and you're sort of trying to like help them relax, like
But
be like,
you don't
it's
know what
cool,
you're
it's
doing
cool.
either?
Yeah, and it's like, I did your job yesterday. You are fucked. Like, and so everybody's kind of stressed. Everybody's kind of, you can snap at each other really easy. No one knows what they're doing, and you don't get any sort of consistent instruction. Like you'll hear like 5 different instructions, completely different, and everybody is telling you
Just from different professors, or
different professors, sometimes upperclassmen. It's intense, and also like I've never been in public school. I've never been in a public university either. My undergrad was at a private Christian college. So for me, like, there's an added layer of like it's an environment I've never been in.
I mean, is it? I keep forgetting about that. That it's a program at a 4-year university, because Florida State, right?
Yeah, it's Florida State. I think with some of these bigger colleges, I'm kind of dumb when it comes to the way schooling works.
I don't know either.
I think with some of these bigger colleges, what you have is you have a university, and then you have colleges within the university.
Right.
So I'm in like the College of Motion Picture Arts. You don't go anywhere else on campus. And campus is like, the size of a small town. Like you drive across multiple streets to get anywhere. I spend every day in that same building, and you start to go a little like crazy. You don't have a good perspective of what the outside world is like at all. Like you kind of lose your perspective. You lose time to like know what's going on in the film industry a bit, which is why you're there. So it's like, it's difficult.
Yeah.
For me, like I completely lost my creative drive, like maybe my impulse or whatever it was. And it took me being home about 2 weeks before I could even remember what it felt like to be creative and like want to write and create things and be excited. Because it sort of just gets pounded out of you because you're being propelled forward at such a rapid rate, and sort of like demanded that you perform constantly. So I don't know what my classmates would say. Like some of them would agree with me. I'm sure there's some of them who have enough like different life experience. They've been through other programs and things like that it's not as intense to them. But unanimously, everybody sort of agrees that it's the most intense thing they've ever done.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You were telling me that at one point in the middle of class, you just pulled out the laptop and started watching Cadet Kelly.
Yeah, I'd had 2 hours of sleep the night before and 3 hours the night before that, you're at that point where you're so tired you feel like your eyeballs are actually going to roll out of your skull. Like you're worried that your eyelids will just sort of give out and the eyeballs will roll. And like any given class is basically like 3 hours straight of just listening to someone lecture. And I just couldn't focus anymore. Like I was worried I was going to like start just yelling or like laughing. Like I was going to have a hysteric breakdown.
Oh my God.
And so I just started anything that came to my mind, I would just Google. And pretty soon I was like watching Cadet Kelly on
The 2002
YouTube.
Disney Channel original movie starring Hilary Duff.
Yes. I made it through the whole opening sequence and I was like, whoa, what the hell am I doing? Like I got zoned in. And then I researched the entire history of the Tom and Jerry cartoons. And like I could tell you like how many episodes were made by each different production house, like which ones did it win. I couldn't help myself. I was compulsively telling people Tom and Jerry facts for the next like 3 weeks. I felt insane.
You sound like a person in an insane asylum.
It feels like being in an insane asylum. It's wild. You sort of do things out of just sheer emotional desperation that you just sort of never thought you would do. Like not anything like bad necessarily, but you just like all of a sudden you're like on the floor sleeping with like 4 other people just because you want to be close to another human being and you're all terrified of going to school again the next day. So you like nobody goes home. You just fall asleep on someone's floor, like all hanging out.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Like it's intense. I'm not dreading going back, but I'm trying not to think about the fact that I have to go back.
In a few days, basically.
Yeah. In a few days. Which I also feel bad every time I talk about it because I'm like, you know, not to tell your update, but like you're going to a program soon.
I'm leaving in, I guess like 5 days. Is that right? Whatever. Within the next week, I'm basically getting on a plane to go to Chicago to start. My program's only a year. And I was thinking, well, it's the Harold Ramis Film School. It's kind of a comedy thing. It's newer. I'm like, it'll be lax. Like, it's probably not even anywhere comparative to Danny's school, which I still don't think it probably is. But I talked to one of my new roommates who's an alumni there, and I was like, so I was just trying to gauge whether I could work a full-time job and still go. She's like, oh, no. She's like, you're barely going to be able to work a part-time job. She's like, it's going to, like, she just didn't sugarcoat. She's like, it's going to be like the hardest year of your life. And I was just like, and so now when you are telling your stories, I'm like, it's more of a reality that could be more of what I'm going to be doing.
And yeah, I feel really bad because I don't want to bum you out or like give you bad expectations where then you go and you sort of like get the wind knocked out of you like quicker.
I think it's probably the opposite. I think I'm more. Before I really would have gone into it probably before hearing you talk about it, before hearing her and some of the other alumni talk about it, I probably would have gone into it really naively thinking, oh, this will be like easy and it'll be fun. I do think it'll be fun. I'm hoping it'll still be fun. I mean, it's a comedy. It's based in comedy and improv and stuff. So I can't imagine it's going to be like. I can't imagine I'm not going to enjoy the things I'm learning, but as far as just not having time for anything else, it does sound pretty stressful. I was talking about this, like, it's not necessarily, and it'd be interesting to hear, because I don't think we've talked about this very specific part of it, but it'd be interesting to, like, hear on the pod, like, your kind of advice about it, but it's really weird for me to think about the fact that I really will not know a soul when I move there.
Oh, yeah.
And you talked about before you left, you were talking about, you're like, well, this is going to be a big thing. And we were kind of like, well, you know, you've gone to college before and other big things. And you're like, yeah, but I've always found this way to bring friends with me whenever I'm going on these new ventures. And I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, it's so weird to me to think, like, the 3 people that I kind of know, I talked to on a Skype call who are my new roommates for like maybe 25 minutes. And that's the most I know anyone. Those are going to be people I'm living with for a year. And then I'm going to be in this program and living in a big city and like it's like a strange city and all strangers and I don't know anyone.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm like, man, is that... And I know I'll connect with people. Obviously, it's people with the same interests, so I'm sure I can make friends. But it's like I have always had close friends around,
Yeah.
like my whole life. Like I've had friends near me, so it's like
Even
this
when
is
you're
gonna
moving to a new town or you're starting a new
Yeah.
job or whatever, like, it's difficult. But when you leave the job, when you leave school or go home for the weekend, you've got all the people you're familiar with, and they
Yeah.
sort of like re-energize you and like you feel comfortable. That was the hardest thing. Like one thing that was really tough the first couple weeks was because it's such a big move. You have no place that's your own that you feel like, okay, everything's gotten a little too much. I can retreat to my space and relax and re-energize because the space you're retreating to is new also.
right.
And like one thing I really focused on when I realized that was I don't feel comfortable even in my own room. So I had like a lot of stress. Like I didn't sleep very much the first several weeks. I was also sleeping on a thin piece of foam on a hardwood floor.
By the way, I'm going to be doing pretty much the same thing because I'm flying, so I can't bring anything. So I'm going to have to. I'm going to try to pick up an air mattress when I leave the airport.
Oh yeah, I would suggest something because like I ordered a mattress and it took like 3 weeks to come in, so I was just like laying on a mattress topper, which is like real thin.
Yeah. See, because I was going to do that too, is order a mattress, but it got to the point where it's like I don't know if I really have the money right now even to buy like an online mattress.
Oh yeah,
And it's like it's weird, but my room, which is really big, like I got lucky with the space that I'm going to be in for Chicago. It's like weirdly like almost like a tile floor.
oh
Yeah, and it's in freezing cold January Chicago,
Oh,
so I
dude.
really pretty much have to get something to sleep
a space heater and an air mattress at minimum,
on. Yeah,
like just to survive.
maybe a shotgun if things get worse.
Get real bad. Yeah. Well, yeah, that was the thing is I had to like one thing when you move to a new place and stuff, like I took enough classes in like cross-cultural communication stuff to like know that you shouldn't isolate. But I sort of chose to isolate for the first 3 weeks, like go out a little bit each day, but sort of isolate so that I spend enough time in that room that then when like get accustomed to it and sort of imbue it with like myself and like make it feel
So
familiar.
it's comfortable.
Yeah, because you really are. You're kind of like a cat when you move to a whole new environment. Like nothing, like you're always on edge because you're sort of mapping out the new area and nothing feels familiar. And I had to do that with my room until it became familiar. So that way then I could use my room as like a retreat anytime things got like too tough. And it's still like doesn't feel quite right yet. But yeah, I would just suggest like anytime you can call people from home, like take your time getting used to it because like it takes time and like it'll stress you out. Like just be ready that you're stressed out. Like if you understand that you're stressed out and you're gonna get stressed out, I think it's easier.
Yeah,
But it's one of those things like you just got to trudge through it, and that's what I'm dealing with now. Is like now that I've passed the first semester, I can I'll be more accustomed to it. I can sort of have more fun, maybe. I'm starting to meet people down there, and that's great. Like I met people right off the bat, but like meet people that I really enjoy hanging out with. But it's still like, I think the only way I can make it is with the mindset of like this is a prison sentence or whatever. Like I've just got to get through that time, and then I
Yeah.
can go home. But one thing, one thing I wanted to say, the thing I was really worried about before I left, and it ended up happening, was I kept telling you guys like I was worried that the best parts of myself were you guys and like my friends and family and stuff like that, and that when I was away, I was just sort of going to be left with the shitty parts of me. And like to an extent, it was true. Like it was really hard to find my identity again when I was there because there was nothing that sort of reinforced my identity.
right.
Like, you know, if I was having crazy thoughts, I couldn't like tell them to someone who knows me really well, and then they're like, yeah, that makes sense, that's what you're like, or blah, blah, or no, you're just stressing out about this. Like you had nothing to bounce off of. So I got like just sort of like not feeling like myself for almost the entire time that I was there.
Well, that's interesting because that's what I was going to talk about a little bit. And I wonder, I have the feeling that what it'll be like for me is sort of like when you go on vacation or on a trip or you stay at someone's house or something for a while and it just doesn't quite feel right, and then you're like, is it just going to feel like that for a year? And I've had a weird thing where knowing that I'm even moving, like it really did not set into me until later that I actually am going to Chicago. And the last, I'd say like 2 or 3 weeks especially, haven't even felt really real. It feels like a weird dream, and I feel like moving there, it's just going to be a year of that, of like me feeling like I'm in a weird headspace for like a year, and I've just been prepping for that.
Yeah, it's weird. Being back, everything that happened feels really far and away and almost like a dream, which is nice because I know that means no matter how stressful the rest of this 2 years is going to be, when I come back, it'll melt away really quick, which is one of the positives I picked up from being home for the holidays. But yeah.
Well, I don't know if I feel like we're going to end up theming this episode on the fact that you went to film school and I'm about to go to film school, and so you're giving your life lessons to me. But one of the
I hope you just have a completely different experience. Like that's what I hope like you get there and you're like, oh, what was this? Well, what was this fucking guy on about?
I hope so too. I really hope that the program is a lot of fun, because as of so far, I've been more stressed out about money and figuring out where to live and all that stuff. And it's really now that I have the place lived and everything sort of settled in, now I've been able to actually think about the program. So I have like just 2 layers of stress, and I'm hoping once I get a job and that's sorted out, because I feel like at the beginning it's going to be crazy for the first month. But what I was going to ask you about was, because I think it kind of it'll be kind of a versus the world type topic almost anyway, is we were talking a lot about like at your school, the environment you're in and the people you're around, it's like really, really liberal.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's an interesting thing, because in Kansas, or I guess I can only speak for myself, but like it's more in Kansas where we're from, it's mostly conservatives that you deal with, and then maybe college age kids you do deal with like liberal people too. And I know that you're kind of neither here nor there specifically, but is that just super challenging to just be in a new environment where you're now flipped to the other side of the spectrum and everyone around you has a certain point of view?
Yeah, definitely like culture shock, and what's weird is I don't think it would be the same if I was just in Florida, but being in a film college, which is an arts thing, it's so liberal, and I have nothing against liberalism or anything like that. Like we did the political spectrum thing and blah blah blah. I fall almost dead center. I'm like, I think 1 point right of center and 1 point down in economics or something like that. So like I can get along with most people, and like doing the podcast and stuff actually really helped quite a bit with just sort of being interested in people and their different perspectives and views. The hard thing is not being able to find a single person with relatable views. Like there will be people who relate to you on like one certain thing, and that's sort of all you have to relate to with them. I do feel a little bit like a black sheep in a lot of ways in my program, and part of it is like compared to them, a lot of them see me as like sort of this like not a hick necessarily, but like they see me as like, they bring up a lot like, oh well, yeah, you're from Kansas, so that makes sense.
Yeah, you said that someone saw you wearing a Jordan Peterson shirt and said that.
Yeah.
And I don't like, that sounds like a fake thing to say to somebody.
No, I was playing Never Have I Ever with a bunch of friends, and someone actually, to get me out, said never have I ever respected Jordan Peterson as a person.
Really?
Yeah. That was the way they got me and one other person out. And it was so weird because like I wasn't going around touting that I'm like, oh, I'm a Jordan Peterson fanboy, because I'm not. Like I guess like I'm a fan, but like I'm not a fanboy. I'm not like Jordan Peterson's the way or anything like that. But yeah, like once people picked up on that, like it just sort of spread around, and people like make jokes a lot about that, which is interesting. It's weird. Like, to them, I'm like Republican white ring. Like, they half expect me to be a Trump supporter half the time. Like, if they start dogging on Trump, they're like, "Wait a minute, don't tell us you're a Trump supporter." And I'm like, "No, but I think most of the stuff you guys are bitching about, like, sort of unimportant. Like, I'm just not interested in what you're saying." They're like, "Oh, what? Because you like him?" It's like,
that's
no.
that. I mean, that's why I think it's an interesting thing. Like, you're kind of witnessing firsthand, like, the extremes of both sides. Because, like, I'd say in Kansas, you end up seeming super liberal, being maybe not you specifically, but I'd say if you're not far right, then to a lot of people, or like especially like I know specifically a lot of Christian friends of ours really like see you as like some like super
wild
anti-religious person or something, which is so weird. Because I'd say you're like closer to being religious than maybe I am.
Yeah.
But it's so weird that just like view.
I'd say I'm religious.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's interesting. But I think I just couldn't believe that comment about that. Like, oh well, Jordan Peterson. Well, you are from Kansas, and it's like, and just that weird.
There is like a little bit of the thing isn't so much like what their views are, their politics are, so much as it's there's a real air of arrogance to it all. Like, I sort of get labeled as being arrogant a lot, but just because I disagree. Like, disagreeing makes me arrogant, or like having my own opinions makes me arrogant. But there's like this weird, like, and nothing against, like, I'm friends with a lot of people down there, nothing against any of them, but there's this weird sort of like self-righteous tone that everyone has of like just being like so convinced that they're right and that they're clearly able to evaluate everything, and they've got all their biases in check and stuff, whereas I'm more like, I'm probably biased, but here's my opinion. Like, I'm just like, oh, I am biased on this, but like, I think I'm allowed to have this opinion, and here's what I think, and you disagree, that's fine, like, don't have a problem with it. There's a lot of like, oh, well, why do you think that? Oh, what, oh, that's so ridiculous, why would you think? The weird one, we talked about it on the other episode we did with the with Brothers by Law, but the weird one was how many times, like, bringing up Elon Musk pissed people off. Like how many people just sort of like hate him from like a liberal stance, that I'm like, shouldn't this guy be like your messiah, like your God? he's probably single-handedly going to have the biggest impact on the environment out of like any movement that's going on right now with what he's doing with EVs and batteries and solar, the solar city and all that. And they're like, yeah, but he kind of sucks. And I had one person tell me like, yeah, he's trying to colonize Mars, and that's cool and all, but maybe he should try and fix the planet we have. I don't think we should be going to Mars. I'm like, what a stupid opinion. This is shitty to say, but I'm like, what a flat out like stupid opinion to have. Like, one, he is
sort of an ignorant, I guess you'd say.
Ignorant,
like, not well thought out.
Not well thought out. But it's like, one, why should we not go to Mars? Like, anyone who makes the argument like we shouldn't go to Mars, we should fix the planet we have, I'm like, why can't we do both? Why is it one or the other? I don't know how that becomes a dichotomy. It's not either we go to other planets or we fix this one. We can do both. And in fact, Elon Musk does both.
Also, if I spend 90% of my resources trying to figure out how to make the best grilled cheese on the planet, but I use 10% on how to save the planet, and that 10% is actually helping save the planet and having a huge impact, why are you still complaining about the grilled cheese? What does it matter?
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of that. A lot of like people sort of thinking that their opinion is the best. Like, none of them would say it, but you get the sense that a lot of them think, well, if I was in charge, I'd be able to fix this.
Right.
And I think that's
if all of the things that I think should be happening were happening all of a sudden, then everything would be peachy green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I guess we, like, maybe that's the thing that sets me apart from a lot of people here and a lot of people there. It doesn't really matter what their political or religious views are. Because it's sort of the opposite there. Most people are not religious at all and sort of see me as weird for still being like slightly like I appreciate religion and am religious in some sort of like very vague sense that I sort of believe in like faith and spirituality in general. That's like so dumb to them a lot of times. I think the thing that's consistent is we have that view of like, we figured out at some point that, yeah, we may think a lot of things, but utopia for us is just utopia for us. So our ideas are not going to work on like a large scale. Like if we could just enact our ideas, it would be hell for most people. Like we sort of get that. And I think like the friends we had here who like really saw me as this negative thing, they do think that way. Like they think like they could solve the problems hypothetically. And I think a lot of people there, completely different ideas, but it's that same idea that like we could solve the problem and we could make it great for everybody.
Yeah. Because at this point, I kind of just see it as like two things, which is one, like, I think you have both of them, which is you have a humility to what you're talking about because you have that, that idea that maybe that you probably couldn't fix everything and you don't know everything. And when you do propose an idea of like, this is what I believe, it's sort of in a sense of like, well, this seems to be the best solution, or this is what I think. And it's in a pretty humble way. And then also the thoughts are well thought out. You actually think about things as opposed to just piggybacking off of an idea. Like, well, this is my team and I'm just going to go that way. It's like, if you're going to think about climate change and have your viewpoint on it, you're not going to go, well, let me adopt a view and then just use that. It's like, you're going to go, okay, well, let's talk about climate change. How much does it actually impact? Or like, what do I really think about it, and philosophically think through how you could solve it? Like, I don't know. And then I don't know if that just comes off bad to people or they don't like it. It seems like if you're not on your, if you're not my friend, you're my enemy kind of thing a lot of times.
Yeah.
But overall, you're friends. You have friends and stuff, even if you disagree with them. Like,
yeah, and
that's the thing.
I disagree with every single friend that I have.
Yeah,
there.
and when it comes down to it, you guys probably hang out and have fun, and it's not a.
Yeah,
because that's what I feel like. There's a big thing online. It always seems like you couldn't possibly be friends with somebody you disagree with. It's like in real life, even when someone has absurdly different views than you, at the end of the day, you can still kind of like, oh, hey, did you see the new Mandalorian episode? And
yeah, though what I will say, a big difference there is, my reading of it is that some of these people have taken that online mentality into the real world a little bit, and so even though like I can be friends with them, it's sort of different. Like you and me disagree on some things. Like we don't agree 100%, and we've never had an issue with that. Some of the people there, it's like the more they realize that I disagree with them, the more they bring it up, and you can kind of feel the friendship pull apart.
It's like a thorn in the side, like for them, that they feel like they can't they can't move past it.
Yeah, and there's sometimes I guess I feel that way with them, but usually it's not like, oh, you believe that? I don't think I could be like, I don't know if we can really be close friends. It's more, God, you bring that up all the time. Like, is there more to you than your ideology?
Yeah.
And I sort of lose interest in some of the people I hang out with because of that. But sometimes I feel like they actually like, sometimes I feel like they have less interest in me because I don't share their views like over time. And it's, I don't know.
Well, I think that I totally relate to that idea of like, I am open to hang out with anyone. I always say, like, to me, like, my friend requirement is like, are you a bad, or like an a-hole, or like a cool person? And it's like, you could be wildly different viewpoints and just be a cool person, that I'm down to hang with you. But I do notice it's not necessarily if people disagree with me. It's if people are uninteresting in the way they disagree, like the way they approach something. It's like, I have people that I know that like I love engaging with on certain topics because they disagree with me, but also the way they approach it is so like, oh, we can actually have this conversation. Because there is a problem if like you constantly are bringing up the disagreements and you're not really willing to have an actual open conversation about it. It's sort of a dismissing thing. It's like, then you just become an uninteresting person, because now I can't actually even engage in a good conversation.
Yeah. And I mean, we should probably move on to other topics soon, but like the other interesting thing is how often I get labeled the opposition. Like people will take certain, like out of some of these friends, they'll take these labels, these political stances, and they'll be like, "This is what I am. I'm this political view. I'm this thing," and then like they'll jokingly describe me as their opposition.
Yeah.
Like they'll be like, "Oh, well, we disagree because you're this," and I just
You're
like,
a Republican.
yeah, and I'm like, I never said that. Like,
Yeah.
I like, there's nothing, but because we disagree, you automatically are putting me on the opposite side of the battlefield when that's not my stance at all.
Well, that's someone who thinks for themselves and actually has their viewpoints. That's hard to actually have a conversation with or argue with. But if they can go, well, you're a Republican or you're a Libertarian or you're this, something I disagree
Or you're
with.
a capitalist.
You're a capitalist. Then it's like, well, now that you're this, it's so much easier to dismiss you.
Dismiss all your ideas
yeah.
because I can associate you with these things I know about, and I already dismissed those things, so I can dismiss you on the same
Yeah.
basis. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I feel like going to Chicago.
I don't think Chicago will be as big of a difference.
Really?
Yeah.
I almost feel like Chicago would be more liberal, but maybe not. It's a pretty big.
Chicago's
mesh.
technically the Midwest.
It's Midwest, and we'll see.
Illinois.
Well, I'll say this. I'll actually give a shout out, not a shout out, but I'll give a lot of credit to Harold Ramis because there was a lot of like they were like very like open about like, you know, trying to include a lot of different people and have that. And I kind of at first was like, is it going to be like really just a bunch of liberal like art students and stuff? But like, there's like several conservative Christians I think that are going, and like really that really is different people. And one of the statements of the school is sort of like to be able to mesh together and like actually cooperate and talk to and understand other people's viewpoints, and not just understand other people's viewpoints being a Muslim or it's sort of like, no, it actually does seem very like overall like inclusive to literally any type of belief. So
Damn, that's cool. That's one thing I wish we had at my college is it does feel like inclusivity for inclusivity's sake.
yeah.
And this sort of you should understand other people's viewpoints, but it's always from the stance assuming that the audience is white conservative men.
Right. Yeah.
Which like there's not many of us in the program, but it's like that's the stance they take as what they assume everyone like the normalcy is. And so they need to bring to light all these other viewpoints that aren't that.
Yeah.
And I get it, but like I don't think that's genuine like community work, like working together with different viewpoints and stuff. Then you would show all opinions equally, sort of, and you would just move on.
Yeah.
There's so much at this school where it's like constantly harping on that, and like we got to go through 2-hour meetings of like diversity and inclusivity and stuff that I'm like, probably we could work together better if we quit doing this.
Yeah.
If we
I
weren't drawing so much
definitely
attention
feel
to
like
it.
that'll be just less of an issue at this school. Mostly it's a comedy school, and most of the people involved are interested in comedy. And that typically to me, like comedy is just more of a unifier than most of the time, because if you kind of can connect on funny, nothing else matters as much. My concern is, and my real concern would be, because comedy right now it gets so divisive, because something like, oh, Dave Chappelle, you shouldn't watch his special because he's a bigot or all this stuff. And it's like, I don't know, because I think that was like one of the best stand-up specials ever. So it's like, I'm really afraid that they'll be talking a lot about punching up comedy and stuff like that. And I'm a little afraid of that. But they sent out a list of like, here's some movies you should watch before you come. And it had movies like Blazing Saddle and even like the South Park movie and stuff on it. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
And it's Harold Ramis Film School, and Harold Ramis movies themselves haven't always been super PC. So I just have a feeling that hopefully that'll be understandable. But
yeah.
that would be the worst thing to me, is it's like if I wanted to do a short film that's centered around the idea of suicide, and they're like, you shouldn't joke about that. And I'd be like, what am I doing? Like, what are we doing here? This is a comedy school.
Yeah.
But I don't think that'll be an issue. But
Well, yeah, okay. We've talked a lot about me. I know you haven't went yet, but you didn't make the decision until a couple months ago, right? Like sometime in September, October.
Probably,
What's
maybe-
it been like since you decided you were going? Like, how do you feel about that?
It's been well, I've had a lot of like good character growth even before I've gone, and I think it's because I've kind of, everyone always jokes, most like women that I've ever had engagements with, when I say this to them, like, yeah, I feel like I might have some commitment issues, they literally laugh. And then it's like, why are you laughing? And it's like, that's so obvious to everyone else that I have commitment issues. But it took me so long to be like, no, I actually have a problem committing to things.
Yeah.
And this will seem off topic, but it's not. I'll bring it back to it. But I definitely, as a person, have always not made big commitments and not tried very hard on certain areas, because then it's a defense. So it's like never try, never fail. And if I keep expectations low, then I can't disappoint people.
Yeah.
And that's always been a big part of me, where it's like I really don't want to. So I downplay everything creative that I do, and and it's gotten in my way 100 times more than it hasn't. You know what I mean? And so one of those things was like, I've been like flirting around with Harold Ramis for school for a long time, and it wasn't until I think I turned 25, and that probably did a little something, because I'm not a big birthday person, but I was like, it just kind of hit me like, I'm 25 and I kind of can't bullshit around anymore. You can kind of do that in your early 20s where you're like, I'm still figuring out what I'm doing. But when I hit 25, I'm like, I'm at a point where I really need to decide what I'm doing. And when I finally was like, and just things were kind of the same where I was at, and things just weren't working, and I keep wanting to like make YouTube videos and do creative projects, and they don't seem to go anywhere. And it was sort of like, I need to make this decision and go. And I finally just was like, I'm going, and I'm committing to going. I'm not like, maybe it'd be good if I go. It's like, I'm doing it. And the weird thing was, like, I had a moment. My mom at first was like discouraging me when I first even mentioned Chicago, maybe because she was afraid I'd get shot or something, which could still happen. And
if we're lucky, yeah,
we'll have
a good
good
story
content
for the pod. Yeah,
exactly.
hell yeah.
It's all about the pod stories, baby. But no, but then it's funny. And then my mom was like, well, why don't you go? She kept talking about different other colleges and stuff. But I remember recently I was talking to her maybe like a month after I made the decision to go, and she started going, well, are you sure you don't want to put it on? Like, just wait till the next semester and you could save more money and put the thing. And that's probably was true. I probably could wait and put more money. But then it's like, I've said that before. And I just got to the point where I told my mom, like, nope, I'm going. Like, just flat out, like, told her that. And it was a weird thing where I thought she would argue with me, but I almost thought that she, like, respected me finally a little bit, that I said, like, no, I am going to go. And then ever since that moment, she's been super supportive about me going. And it's like, I think she was happy to see me, like, commit to something for once.
Yeah.
And so it's like, because I know that that's a character flaw of mine. So it's a big thing, even though I haven't gone yet, it's already been a big thing that I fully committed to going and am leaving and bought a plane ticket and am going. And I've had like panic attacks at different times over the last like 3 weeks about it, but I've never and I've had doubts, but I've never gone like, I guess I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? It's like, I've just been like, and I've been lucky in different ways too, but to be able to be in the situation I'm in. So yeah. And I get terrified a little bit. I still have like a lot of anxiety about it, and it's a little uncertain, but I'm trying to not let those things get in the way of like enjoying the experience once I go. So
I can actually relate to that. Like, I don't have commitment. Well, I guess maybe in a way it's commitment, but I never have an issue jumping into something or committing to doing something, but I'm a quitter. Like, I think that's typically my flaw. Start a project and then be like, this sucks. I'm not even going to edit it. I don't know how many films we've done, like videos we've done that I had the idea for. We filmed half of it and then I was like, and just like threw it out. I've had multiple times where I was like, when I was doing theater, where I'm doing a play and I get into it and then like a month before I just want to quit. And I think I have, I would have to sit here and think for a second, but I think I have quit different shows before, different theater shows, and that's something I have a tendency to do. In a way, I quit school in college. I never like quit in the middle of a year, but I definitely was like, that's it. I'm just doing 2 years, get my AA, and then I'm gonna be done. And then I do one like gone for a year, and then I'm like, I'll go back for a year, but then like that sucks. So I'm like, after this year, I'm done. That's something I have, and I've had a lot of anxiety and stress since going to film school of like, I should just quit. Like, I should just go home, call it quits now, like get out ahead. So like, yeah, I can sort of relate to it from like that aspect of probably it seems like I don't have as much commitment issue just because I jump into things, but that's what I usually do. I jump in and say yes, and then I back out. Oh
yeah. Well, that's how I knew that your program must be really hard, was when we were talking on the phone one time and you were like, really talking about like that, like quitting or not necessarily quitting, but then now you'll still do sort of a thing since you've been on break where it's like, I feel like I have enough knowledge now that I could kind of leave if I needed to.
Yeah.
Which my encouragement is that you don't do that, because you're and you probably know, like you know when you're like kind of start justifying things in your head a little bit where it's like it starts spinning. It's like I feel like I've learned a lot now, and I could probably, it's like, but the truth is that, and this is because this is exactly what I'm telling myself, because I might be in the same situation in Chicago, is like, we're really lucky to be in a situation where we can do that. And if you're in a situation, even though it might be hell, but it's like,
oh, and it is.
If you and you were saying a minute ago, like the idea that now it kind of looks like a dream when you look back. It's like, if you keep that in mind and just go, just let me make it through these 2 years, and it's going to be 2 really tough years, but then I'll just have so much experience and like be able to really.
And everything after is easier.
Yeah, everything is easy afterwards. So and fun. But I mean, that's the other part of it too. Is like, you definitely don't want to lose your creativity, which it sounds like you kind of were a bit, and hopefully.
Well, and I'm thinking now that I know that I can. This may sound weird. Now that I know I can get it back, I'm sure I'll be stressed, but I can sort of go in with the mindset of I can just not be creative the entire time I'm in the program, and then when I'm out, when the creativity sparks again, I'll know what to do. To harness that creative energy.
I think naturally you're creative there. I don't think it's someone's going to teach you to be more creative. Like, but structure, I guess, is what you're really getting from the program, and like the actual mechanics of filmmaking.
Yeah,
and it's like, take those, and then when you get out, now it's like you can just apply your creativity, and you have all this. Yeah, you know the right way to like use your creativity. So
have all the tools and stuff, and that's what I'm trying to remind myself is like, I don't need to impress anybody while I'm here. I don't need to make the most creative films while I'm here. I just need to learn, and then I can do the creativity later, which I think is where most of the pressure is coming from. Is I'm like, I should have got this opportunity. Why am I not making the best thing I've ever made? But yeah, I think if we both make it through this program and come out on the other side, we'll probably more or less be the same people we've always been. This is probably, I shouldn't be saying this. This is one of those like bad luck things. But I think if we both make it through, it could be really shitty. We might hit some of the worst times in our life that we've had. But I think when we sit on this couch again and start recording season 3, we'll probably look at each other with like a lot of respect for each other. And I think we'll have a lot more self-respect.
Yeah.
And that we're actually capable of doing these really tough things. I think that's, we've always been creative. We've always been talented in certain aspects, but I think we undermine ourselves a lot because we don't have a lot of self-respect, because we've never pushed. Like, we always get by on the minimum of what we need to do. I think so
too. So I think that we're gonna push through. I mean, at least speaking for myself, but I think for you too, it's like we are doing that push now with these things that we're doing, these endeavors, and so like when it's over, it's like we've improved as people and been able to get over some of those roadblocks. And then we also now have all these new skills and new things that we've learned. And it's like, I think creatively, we're going to paint this town red.
Oh, boy. You Can't Kill 11-3 is going to be a banger.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which, speaking of which, we probably, I realize we've been actually going for like an hour almost, but do you want to, what kind of, do we have announcements or anything?
I guess we could. Yeah, we kind of have announcements. I guess
what's going on in the future, kind of thing.
Let me think.
As far as versus the world, not really. But we did do, and I don't. This will probably come out before, because we mentioned a while ago, Brothers by Law podcast.
I think that'll be next. This episode will be first. Yeah. And then we'll have that. So expect another bonus episode.
We'll do like a bonus episode, and we'll talk more about that on that episode, I guess. But
one thing I want to say is just thanks to everyone who's been listening and sticking with us. I expect there to be a pretty big drop-off until we do season 3. Yeah. But I was really surprised how many people kept listening. We got probably as many downloads in the 2 months after we quit as we got in like 4 months before we quit.
Which is weird.
Really weird. And so like the numbers and everything, that it's really encouraging and really makes us like, we can't do the show right now, unfortunately. Yeah. But if we could, we would be, because like you guys have been so encouraging, and we're really excited to come back and do it when we can. But thank you everybody who's been listening, sharing, and downloading.
And all the people, like friends of ours and stuff, who really actually listen to the podcast, it always catches me off guard when someone's being really genuine. Like, or even the Thomas, your friend who from the Brothers by Law podcast, like he was like, "Oh, I've listened to every episode," and I'm like, "Really? I haven't even listened to every episode."
Yeah, I can't believe you actually pushed through. That's like 20 episodes of stupidity.
Right. And so the people like that, like, I mean, that means so much when
even a couple friends in film school found my podcast, and that made me nervous because I talk a lot about my personal politics and stuff. And surprisingly, they really liked the show and thought it was really good and have been listening and sharing it. And that's super cool, and I like super appreciate that. It means like a lot.
I think I've actually, from feedback of people listening to the show, I think there's podcast Matt is way more of asshole Matt. I've realized, like, I guess because I end up being like the skeptic person, so I push back on a lot of things like that. And so that's actually made me, I mean, I always say, but the podcast is always great even to listen back to, but hear people's feedback. It's like, it makes me realize what's a better way to approach things and how to talk. So like, it's always an improving thing.
Well, and it's really fun. I can't wait till we do it again because I think we finally hit the point where we're as comfortable on mic talking to each other as we are off mic.
Yeah.
And that's always been where the really good shit, like the really good content has been. And that's why we started doing podcasting. We were talking to a few friends and they were like, yeah, if you guys just recorded the shit that you guys talk about, like, I'd listen to it because it's really interesting listening to you guys talk. And we've only just hit the point where we're basically the same people on mic as off mic.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So it's it's exciting to see what we'll do. And maybe we needed a little bit of a break because maybe we're changing a bit, and then we can come back with like really fresh perspectives. And
and I've got some fun ideas for what I want to bounce off you of ways we want to change it, make it more comfortable and stuff. But so as far as like what you guys can look forward to, not a whole lot, but we will have a couple bonus episodes, and then I may do a offshoot series. It'll still be uploaded here on Verse the World, same place you listen to it. But like we do seasons, I may, if I can muster up enough time, I may try and keep a series going in Tallahassee just to hold you guys over.
Yeah.
It'd be unfortunate that it'd just be me, but it'd be me interviewing people down there.
An idea kind of me and Eric had, which was Verse the World presents Danny on the Run.
Which I love the name.
Yeah. And I think even if you can't get a guest or whatever, even if you just had thoughts about something, you could, because it doesn't have to be very long. It'd just be some interesting things. But and then maybe depending on how Chicago goes too, I could do a similar thing. Hopefully we could somehow find some way to do it. It just seems like the way my program seems like it's going to be and the ways yours is, it just seems like it's going to be almost impossible to actually like be able to put like an hour aside to do the podcast where we both line up.
Yeah.
So we might just be doing little things like that. In the meantime. So.
Yeah, and I do want to make an announcement because probably by the time this episode's up, because the first is in 2 days. Yeah, by the time this is up, my new YouTube channel will have launched, and a little masturbatory self plug here. If you want to follow me while I'm in film school, can't promise the best content. It's probably going to be the shittiest YouTube channel ever made. But Danny Voiles Presents, youtube.com, Danny Voiles Presents, is my new channel. I'll be posting updates about what I'm doing in film school. The projects that I'm legally allowed to share, I'll be sharing there so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And if I have time, I may start doing like more creative stuff. But that's somewhere I'm planning on posting at least once a month. So check it out.
That'd be awesome. When I this will sometime. I really have no idea what my time frame is, like what my schedule is going to be like when I get there exactly. So I can't guarantee how much, but like obviously I have my Pabloopski YouTube channel, which I've posted here and there over the last couple months, and I appreciate people's feedback on there. We will probably be making a Eric, what's the name of that show that we did? I forgot the name of it, and it's my own video.
The Skillshare?
What's the grilled cheese one called? What's the name of it?
It's called Learn Stuff.
Thank you. So, Learn Stuff, which a lot of people gave me a lot of, like, really liked that grilled cheese episode. And, like, I think no matter what, at some point in the future, we will do more of those.
It actually upped my grilled cheese game.
That mayonnaise. That
mayonnaise is so good. It's so crispy, golden brown, and it tastes like a diner grilled cheese now, finally.
Right. And so we learned a lot with that one. But anyway, I also, mainly what I'm going to be doing, just because it'll be easy with editing and everything, is I want to do sort of a vlog type thing. I would have liked to do like every day, but that just would be so insane. So maybe every week or every 2 weeks, I'll do sort of like, oh, here's my life in Chicago, and here's what I'm doing. And it'll be like, it's not just going to be like boring vlog. Like I'll try to make it funny and everything. But
I don't care if anybody else watches. Probably we should both keep those channels going as much as we can, just so we can watch each other.
Yeah.
Like keep up with each other.
I think that'd be good. And yeah, well, I always think it'll be good as just like almost a thing to look back on that point in your life. That's why I want to do it. I'm like, this is going to be
that visual journal idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2020. I'm 25. It's going to be a really weird year of my life that I don't think will ever kind of be the same way again. So I'm like, I really want to like almost journal that in a funny way and kind of see what was my comedy like at the time and all that. And also, I'm going to be really doing a lot of like open mics and trying my hand at stand up. And so I'm going to try to infuse that into the video somehow, just because I think it'd be hilarious to see someone just start doing stand up and see by the end of the year, like, did I get any better?
Yeah.
Like, it'd be kind of interesting to see that evolve. So there's that. I have one more weird plug, which is me and Eric West, which by the way, thanks to Eric, because he just like slumped together all of his equipment really quick so we could do this over break podcast. But me and Eric started experimenting a little bit, and we've done like 2 episodes of a thing. We were thinking of kind of doing a podcast with just us sort of talking about philosophical ideas, like really abstract philosophical concepts, just kind of short little like 30-minute things. And so we'll probably at least put the first 2 out, or at least one of them out, and we might maybe possibly link that in this podcast or something. But if any listeners want to go check that out, Eric West, who was a guest on the podcast before, is insanely smart, like just a hilarious, like funny guy, and really just a really good thinker. Like he's way kind of ahead of where me and Caleb were at. That we were at his age, or even our age. I think about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think what did you say earlier today?
He's
Eric?
the alpha male of the group.
Yeah. Eric is like what we want to be at some point.
Eric West is my what is it?
Spirit animal.
No. He's my ideal self.
Yeah, there you go. Like if you were, yeah. Well, so anyway, we might link that in just any Verse the World listeners. It might be a similar thing, and so listen to it if you get the chance, and then let us know if we should try to make more. And then, man, because we're not going to have another chance to plug it, but did we ever plug Eric's album when it came out?
Yes, we did. Okay. I was actually going to ask him if we could plug the new one that's about to come out.
That's what I was going to say. He's about to release the new one. And so whenever this comes out, we could probably link it.
Yeah. Kill Me Katie on Spotify. New album dropping early 2020.
Mm-hmm.
He's let us listen to the samples. It's a really good banger.
Somehow he the last album was like, whoa, this is like legit. This is legit. This is good stuff. And then he just showed us that new hit single off the new album, and we were like, holy, somehow he did it again.
He did. Yeah. So yep. He probably gets embarrassed of us plugging him all the time, but it's a really great album. You're going to want to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So that was a good 10-minute of plugs. And
Ty, did you want us to say anything for you?
You can if you want to.
Ty Newmeyer, otherwise known as the James, on the Three's a Podcast. Mm-hmm. You can just look up. It's like Three's crowd, but it's Three's a Podcast. Where for the most part, although I'm sort of not going to be able to do it anymore, but it was me, Evan, and Ty, and we just talked about almost anything. Yeah. Each week it was a different topic, but mostly probably centering around like a lot of politics. Sometimes, usually it's nerd stuff or like kind of nerd culture stuff we're talking about, and just anything under the sun. Just 3 idiots talking about it. So you can look that up. Three's a Podcast. Yeah.
We're
so.
On YouTube and BitChute.
Oh yeah, BitChute is mostly where you can find it. So.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
No, I think that's enough plugs.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, especially if you made it this far into the plugs. Looking forward to doing more for you guys, but thank you so much for listening. It's been a fun ride, and I guess we'll see you sometime in the future.
Yeah. Wish us luck. See you around.
All right.
Space Cowboy.